So the first of these two resolutions is R 23004, which has been on our plate for almost a year now. This grew out of a desire voiced at this body that we be more proactive about the city's rewriting of the zoning code effort. Basically, it came before the body for information purposes once. It came before the body for a vote once. It was voted down and sent back to committee for revision. There were two critiques of it voiced at that time. One was that it had not been revised since its previous version, and the other was that some neighborhoods are in need of having their zone density increased. The version that you have now is color coded. The blue color code are those changes that were made prior to the complaint that no changes were made. The red color code is the changes that were made subsequent to that. So if you were familiar with the version before, you can just read colored parts. In essence, this resolution is agnostic with regard to zone density. It's neither calling for it to be increased or not to be increased, but rather it is pointing out the role that it plays in the city's future and the proper way in which it should be modified. Essentially, the high points, which are in the fact sheet, zone density is not built density. So when people refer to density, as in we need density here or we need density there, what they are generally referring to is built density. Zoning density does not necessarily create built density, and quite often have the opposite effect. If you doubt that, you should spend some time playing SimCity. Built density itself is not a goal, generally speaking, although people often refer to it as a goal. Usually in conversation, what comes out is that the actual goal is something else, and built density is a way to achieve that goal. So it's important to keep in mind that the way one uses built density to achieve various other goals is also an important factor. Generally speaking, broad increases in density are counterproductive. Essentially, if we were to step back and say, well, we'll just double the density everywhere in the city, we would fail to accomplish a lot of the goals that are the true goals of increasing density. Essentially, this is what happened in Los Angeles, that you end up with a fairly dense pattern of development, the densest metropolitan area in the country, in fact, but what you don't have are things like transit, because you haven't reached that critical density to support transit. This has been referred to as sprawl or as dense sprawl, but essentially the densities required to support transit are starting at about 4 times the mean density of Atlanta right now. So anything that is at or below the mean density of Atlanta, if it were to actually double its built density, would not be sufficient to support transit. We also have existing mechanisms to increase zone density. We can do it reactively, we can do it proactively. Reactively, as the developer comes along with a plan, says, I want to build this here, I don't have the right zoning, and you give me the right zoning. Proactively, as the community does a study and says, you know, our zoning isn't right for the way we see our future. They change the zoning, and hopefully there's a better future. And that is what is called for in one of the recommendations in red at the end of the resolution, which is for those areas that would benefit from an increase in zone density. Studies should be undertaken, and those studies should not be delayed by the zoning rewrite effort, because they are something we can and should be doing right now. I would add to all of that, because I think it's relevant, a comment that was made during the transportation presentation, which was about planning for our future. That it was said that we may get 100,000 new people in the city, but we can't accommodate 100,000 new cars. And again, this comes back to the question of where do you put your density? Put your density along transit and transportation corridors. You don't have to accommodate 100,000 cars. If you butter your density in low density neighborhoods by doubling them, you then do have to accommodate 100,000 new cars, and that's a problem. So on that note, I will open the floor to questions.
Mr. Hunter?
So I cannot and will not be supporting this resolution, only because where I live, we have more houses than anything, right? More people live, and that's what we do. We have some shopping centers, we have some business districts, but not many. So density is determined by our zoning because whatever you can build on this land will dictate the density of that area. If you only can build single family, that's gonna acquire a certain amount of density. If you only can build mixed use, you only can build apartments, it's this density tied to the zoning. And I think it should be. That lets us know what can and cannot be done in our areas. So therefore, I think that if we are rewriting our zoning and we want to ignore the idea of density, that is a waste of our time and the effort on behalf of the city, in my opinion. I think that we have to talk about density while we are updating our zoning code. I think that we should talk about density while we are updating the CDP. And anything saying that we should not talk about that, we should do it separately apart, I think will create what we already have, which is it's a disjointed effort. So therefore, I cannot support this resolution.
Okay. As I said the last time, you made exactly that same point. If your area needs more density, this is putting it in the zoning code by changing the meaning of zoning
Doesn't need, I want to know what can be done in my area.
is the least effective way to do that. It will take the longest amount of time and be implemented in the sloppiest way. And the changes that will inevitably result in the rest of the city can't possibly benefit your area. Eric?
Zoning has to be tied to density.
Zoning is.
Call it order, Mr. Hassan.
Yes, Eric.
So, no, actually,
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Mr. Hassan.
Actually, never mind.
Okay, Mr. Toomer.
I'm in support of this, and the reason why is I do not want to be lumped in to a redefining of my area that I chose to purchase by in this blanket all, because we don't live too far from each other, but his needs and my needs are different. So I do not want this blanket to occur where I'm forced to have a neighborhood that is now protected by the current zoning to be redirected in a manner that someone can start putting ADUs in my backyard in terms of site, not on my property line, and which would devalue my property. So I'm in support of this 100%.
So I think my question is, the crux of this is, this resolution, the crux of it is, there's a lot of whereases, which gets to the point that we want this to be a separate process from the zoning rewrite process.
That is correct.
So there's a zoning rewrite process, there's a CDP. And so my question is, who is supposed to then take away time for the zoning rewrite process and the CDP and do this separate process in lieu of that? And how are they going to prioritize that instead of the zoning rewrite that is happening, where you will actually have the opportunity to go in and say, this is what I want for my neighborhood, versus doing it separately?
Yeah, we're not calling for the creation of a new and different process. This is a process that we have in place. So if you look, for example, at Hamilton Road, at Bolton Road, at Howell Mill Road, we undertook studies, did proactive rezoning, the zoning was changed. I mean, that we didn't have to create a new and different process for that. That's a process the city already has. And so the question is, if there are places in the city, Rachine's neighborhood, for example, that we deem the zoning to be inappropriate in terms of insufficiently dense, then saying, well, let's wait and see what happens in the zoning rewrite and hope that the zoning rewrite changes all of the meanings of all of those zonings that already exist in Rachine's neighborhood to be just the right density for Rachine's neighborhood without doing harm anywhere else in the city. And let's see if that happens, instead of saying, you know, we could just do a proactive study in Rachine's neighborhood and come up with some zoning recommendations, which is the current system. I'm using your neighborhood as an example. As the only example.
I'm not saying that my neighborhood needs any more density. My house is zoned R3. R3 has restrictions that you can and cannot do at home. I'm not saying to change my home. I know what can be done on my home because of what is zoned on. What is zoned. I know density can happen. I cannot choose arbitrarily to split my house into a duplex. I can't. It's not zoned for that. There's a process to go and change that. And I'm not saying we should change it where everyone can decide to do that. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we are evaluating the zoning code that has not been touched in 40 years. You're going to look at all these categories and we're going to do a compare and stare. Some things will change, some things will not change. But to think that we should not talk about density at all in general with zoning, I think is asking for a half-ditch effort. I don't want any more density in my neighborhood, but you sure can bring some to Fairburn Road, you sure can bring some more to Kempton Road. There are parts of Kempton Road that was zoned until we changed it agricultural, and it's not that. Because it has not been touched in 40 years.
But
to say that we should not look at density at all when we're doing zoning in any corridors, not neighborhoods, is, I think, immature. Density should be a part of the conversation.
You're disagreeing with me, but you're also agreeing with me.
Exactly.
Which is very confusing, right?
Because I feel like.
So you're saying that the Hamilton Road proactive rezoning was a good thing?
What I'm saying
Fix the
is,
problem.
what I'm saying is that if we're looking at the entire city, we should not say take density off the table. And that's what I believe this resolution does. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Ms. Hawkins-Webb?
To the contrary, I think it's all summed up in that last 4-line red at the bottom of the document. It seems like I mean, everyone can read it, but I think it's a summation of what he is expressing, that concurrent with the rewrite, let's take a look at current areas that are undeveloped and see if there's some room to not allow ourselves to be in a crisis later when we've got suddenly this densification. And then concurrently look at the undeveloped and underdeveloped areas. Is that correct, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, there are clearly places that have insufficiently dense zoning, and you can see that, the manifestations of that in the built forms of those areas.
But the crux of it, as she just said, is that red letter at the very bottom of all of these whereas.
Yeah, that was added after the last time it came before this board to emphasize the fact that we have a process for changing the zoning of areas, following a study of that area, because we deem the current zoning to be inappropriate for the current conditions, as opposed to saying that the current zoning would be better if it was something different, so we'll change the meaning of that zoning citywide to make it right for this area and hope that it doesn't have adverse consequences everywhere else.
I wish a planner was here because I don't think that that's actually what's going to happen with the zoning rewrite. So,
It was stated at the public meeting that they did not plan to increase zone density in the zoning rewrite process.
So, this conversation is actually committee work conversation. Ms. King, I will take your question, but at this point, we either need to vote it up and down, or we'll refer it back to committee. Ms. King.
I was going to ask for more committee work as a new member of the board, and I tried to read through this admittedly this morning at 7:30, and I was going, I don't have enough context for it. It's not with this board, and I know it was presented prior. I would also like to ask, it's just a rhetorical question, who is the arbiter of where density should happen? And I think that's what the CDP represents, because neighborhoods do have input. You are working with a planner, to your point, and so that's where I would ask this to go to committee work.
Ms. Stout?
I was gonna say, let's just vote it down. It's been out there years.
Well, I mean, I guess the question is, if there is no revision that anyone imagines needs to happen in committee, then referring it to a committee so that it can languish longer in a committee doesn't seem like a very productive course of action. If you say, well, you know, it needs some work in this area or that area, then referring it to committee makes sense. Which was essentially why we referred to committee before, was there were substantive criticisms of, you know, this needs to be changed, that needs to be changed, so it was referred to committee, worked on a committee. If we're just saying now, we're not ready, we're not happy, then there's really not a lot of point in referring to the committee, because I don't see what the committee is going to change.
We also, this languished in the committee for over a year. It came to the floor and I think there was a rejection of FYI. Was there a vote? Or that's
Yeah,
why?
it was voted down and then a
Then it
motion
went
was made to send it back to
back.
committee for revision and it was sent back for revision.
Absolutely.
And the revision following that vote is the language that is in red in the copy.
That's right.
All right, so with that being said, this is coming out of a committee that did exist.
Sort of a motion.
Sort of a motion out of committee. So just for posterity, I will take a motion instead, because that committee doesn't actually exist. We're in that gray area now. We have established committees. It would fall under what is now quality of life. But like you said, it's been voted down. The new committee hasn't actually had an opportunity to take a look at it and make any sort of revisions.
I
To
think
say,
this would be policy.
I think
Yeah.
quality.
No, that was not what, the way Leah described the committee structure.
Yeah.
So quality of life includes the
This
This is,
it's actually,
Are we just?
this is proactive until there is a concrete proposal to do something different, at which point it would be reactive.
Madam Chair,
as I was saying, let's, point of order, so,
It's,
this, the committee that this would fall under now is quality of life. And so they have not actually brought this forward. This was a previous committee. So, my inclination is to send it back to committee so that the new committee can take a look at it. But because it has been on the table for a very long time, I will entertain a motion and you guys can vote it up or down, but if there is no motion, then it'll be referred to committee. So, Mr. Timmer?
motion to approve.
Madam Chair, second.
All right, Mr. Timmer has motion and Ms. Hawkins Lynn has seconded a motion to approve resolution 23-004 in regards to city densification, specifically a resolution calling on the Atlanta Department of City Planning to adopt a practical and proven approach to the densification of the city as it undertakes the zoning rewrite process. We will do
Point of
a,
question, Madam Chair. Would it be appropriate to,
Mr. Timmer, I wasn't finished.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I apologize.
We will do a roll vote. Are there any questions on the motion?
Yes. Would it be appropriate to, have a caveat to that motion where we can send it regardless of the outcome, where we can send it? No.
Send it forward.
Okay. Question answered.
All right, so we will take that.
Madam Chair, on motion,
I'm sorry, Mr. Lyon.
I will be abstaining from voting my packet.
Packet didn't have the updates. Okay, and there's no, just for,
Is it not in your folder?
Yeah. Vote on me. I have to hold, my packet did not have the new ones.
it's not new.
No, I mean, I don't have the ones with revisions.
Oh.
You got the same thing that I had. They had red highlight.
Well. Something that ain't ran out in.
Guys, it's not the same document.
Maybe that is yesterday.
It's not the same document.
Literally just yesterday.
Okay, that's not the same document.
No, we don't have any of the resolutions.
I have the resolution, but I don't have the revised.
What he's saying is that
You
it's
have
just
it.
that the color went.
No, look at, it's
No,
not the
that's
same.
not-
It's
can I
not
see
the
a
same
copy?
document. That's the document I have. This is the second page. They're not the same.
That's why I'm asking you, do you have the resolutions? You said yes.
This is
Resolution R dash
Okay.
33 dash 0.
What's the last word in the copy you have?
So you-
Goes to the vote?
If that's your reason for abstaining, that's fine, but I just will let you know that, this no information has actually changed. All right, so we're gonna do A roll call vote?
No,
Wait, I'm sorry. Okay.
Mr. Barton?
Yeah.
Mr. Barnett?
No.
Mr. Furman?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Glover?
yes,
Mr. Penny?
No.
Ms. Balil? No. Mr. Kessler?
No.
Ms. Stout? No. Mr. Hunter?
Not in favor.
Mr. Toomer?
Yes.
Mr. Dodds?
Not in favor.
Ms. Sines?
Abstain.
Ms. Flowers?
No.
Mr. Hassan?
Abstain.
And Ms. Hopkins Wynn?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips? Ms. Hopkins?
No.
It's a tiebreaker.
10 nays and 3 abstentions.
Are you sure about the 10? I have 9.
I have King, Barnett, Penny, Balil, Kessler, Stout, Hunter, Dodds, Flowers, Wilchinski. No.
One more note. Okay, yep, that's right. All right, so the motion does not pass. Thank you. I'm sorry, 6 in favor, 10 against, and 3 abstentions. You're welcome. All right, next resolution. R-23-007, the tenantization of low-income, single-family neighborhoods.
Okay, this was a matter that was brought before the body several months ago during public comment. There is a movement afoot to subdivide single-family homes using the pretext of servants' quarters, which are permitted under the code, and in fact, having those servants and tenants rather than actual servants, but creating a contractual relationship such that they can be housed in servants' quarters as permitted under the code. What the resolution is calling for is the elimination of the permission, the explicit permission for servants' quarters, because we now have a permission for accessory dwelling units that did not exist when the servants' quarters permission was originally created, and we have actual servants that can be housed in an ADU. It is also calling for a redefinition of family under the code, which is currently.
Point of order. I believe the
It's a typo.
agenda has,
It's a typo. It's typo, Mr. Debbie.
okay. So I wasn't present during the,
No, we learned it was typo too. We didn't.
Oh, you're talking about the designation of the resolution?
correct.
Yes. I don't know. I think, and that nomenclature was yours.
Yeah, 007 is correct, it's just on the sheet, it says 006.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Well, it says that also on the resolution itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so the correct is 7.
Yes. Yes.
So it's also calling for a redefinition of family, which currently under the code can be up to 6 random unrelated individuals or any number of related individuals and random other unrelated individuals that would bring the total up to 6, or servants. So we would be removing the explicit permission for servants we would be changing the definition to be a family is any number of related individuals and up to 2 other unrelated individuals. And expanding I'm expanding the definition of related to include other relationships that are not currently contemplated in the code, which was written a long time ago when relationships were not as broadly considered as they are today. So I think that's it. There are several examples from popular culture, if you're interested in how the Brady Bunch would fare, or O.J. Simpson would fare, or Bruce Wayne would fare, or the Golden Girls would fare. You can read about that in the fact sheet. I believe they would all be reasonably accommodated under the new proposal. So,
We have
questions?
questions from Ms. King, Ms. Stout, and Mr. Hunter. Ms. King?
I had a question in terms of what HUD and the state laws and the policies are in relation to definitions of families, et cetera, because our condo bylaws are superseded by anything that the city does due to the state organization. There are references back to the city, but I wondered where these definitions are. And if we're making asking for a resolution or a change, is it just a moot point because a higher level of hierarchy in the law says that it doesn't matter? I don't know that, answer, so.
Yeah, there is a definition in the zoning code. If there are other definitions elsewhere that might supersede it, I am not aware of them. And there is a separate definition under SPI 14 in the zoning code. So that we in fact have within the current zoning code 2 different definitions. So I assume that planning staff vetted those and came to the conclusion that this was possible. So I think that there is some latitude there, but I'm not a legal scholar.
If I may respond to Ms. King, condos wouldn't even apply to this. Because condos can't have certain quarters by the definition.
But
So-
the term family was what.
And so that, I will address that with my turn to speak. That's the red herring in my opinion to this resolution.
Okay.
It's not addressing servants' quarters.
So,
Is this comments or questions?
both about
I
the
guess it's a
actual
discussion.
discussion.
I find this highly confusing. And is this something we talked about many, many times?
Yeah.
It goes back a ways.
It was first brought, August 2020.
The issue originated in Grove Park.
I feel uncomfortable telling who can live with who, and I don't know if that's the purpose of this recommendation or a side effect of it. But I am really looking forward to our new organizational structure and our new committees and our new things. And I would not like to see this again. I would not like to talk about it. I would not like to vote for it again.
I mean, you do understand that the current zoning code does specify who can live with who.
Mr.
To some
Hunter,
Then I think we will bring that up when we rewrite it.
Mr. Hunter, and then Ms. Flowers and Ms. Phillips.
So the original ask, and I believe I was the original motion maker to send this back to send this to the committee, and now I am really, I'm honestly disappointed. The point here was to address servants' quarters. Someone took a single family home and illegally subdivided it into duplexes, triplexes, and quads. And they will have people renting out rooms inside of a home without adequate access to bathrooms. They had a hot plate and an air fryer serving as their kitchen within their room. This resolution was asked to address that, and it does not. It addresses families. And if I may finish, a service quarter, in order, the code that talks about service quarters is obsolete in terms of it needs to be updated. This will even attempt to do that, because the thing is, one of the linchpins to be qualified as a service quarter, it's not the type of housing, but it's an attached or detached, doesn't matter. It's the fact that that person's supposed to be employed by the household.
Yes.
These people don't, the people that we wanted to help or to address don't work for their household. They work in Atlanta and they can't afford adequate housing.
Homeless.
This does not address that.
And the cups of home.
No, let's vote this down. Let's walk into the future that we have set up for ourselves for this committee, and let's move forward.
Okay, so if I may.
There was no question.
Of course, there was no question. There was a statement, and I would like to address the statement because I think it was highly misleading.
Recognize.
Point of order.
Yes.
please. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Flowers, Ms. Flowers, and then Ms. Phillips.
So my comment is gonna be exactly what Rasheen said. I remember the conversation. This was not reflecting the conversation that was taking place. So yeah, so that, thank you.
Ms. Phillips.
Pretty much the same. I am 101% in favor of a resolution that addresses servants' quarters, and I'm 101% for the abolition of that legislation. However, the resolution needs to focus just on that and the abolition of that legislation. And I know that, I'll give you a quick example. I have a trailer park in my NPU. And, you know, what they're doing is, they're doing the same thing. They're dividing it up, renting rooms to several different people, non-related people, and charging them, you know, $500-600 a month. That to me is a service quarter because they don't have access to a centralized kitchen, bathrooms, whatever, just make one bathroom for someone. So that's a service quarter. That needs to stop. But you're gonna, you know, and I'm 100% with you on this. I just needed to be a little bit sharper.
Okay, let me, if I may, please.
Okay.
I asked this question to several people, including Rasheen. I said, are we objecting to the term servants' quarters? Or are we objecting to the built form of servants' quarters? And the answer I got from everybody is we're objecting to the form, not to the term. So if we just renamed servants' quarters in the code, happy-friendly quarters, that would not solve the problem, right? And the issue with the definition of family is you can build servants' quarters without calling them servants' quarters. In fact, are your quarters even called servants' quarters?
No, they're called trailer.
Okay, but again, you can do these things because under the definition of family, I can rent out 6 rooms in my house to 6 completely unrelated individuals with 6 hot plates in those 6 rooms. None of them need to be servants. It's only when I add the 7th that I have to rely on the servants' quarters provision. First 6, I can do without servants' quarters provisions.
So you're saying then that we need to address this issue from the
That's,
definition.
I'm saying that's why it's in there.
Yeah.
It's in there to address the built form of servants' quarters, not the term service quarters.
Mr. Hunter.
So there is a definite, I'm sorry, I already spoke, and Ms. Burnett has signed.
Please, Mr. Hunter, go ahead. I will follow up your comments,
Okay.
please.
There is a definition of service quarters in this code. And the code specifically is service and watchman. And it gives specific things that makes you qualify for that. I don't care if you're taxed down the street. The point is that you're supposed to be someone that's employed by that household. That definition, maybe it's in this resolution, I don't see it, okay, fine. But that's what we wanted to address because that was being exploited in the opinion of people who this is work to. This does not address that directly.
Okay, Mr. Burnett.
Yes, thank you. I'll start a little bit differently in saying I really appreciate the work that Mr. Martin did. Your resolution discovered a whole bag of problems that we currently have in our zoning code that are related to how the city defines families in a very narrow context that we should look at expanding upon, because that's not necessarily how everyone sees family today. The issue of the word servants and watchmen, the fact that the wording itself is antiquated and probably, from what I can tell, dates back to the 1930s zoning code that was lifted and shifted, and no one has ever updated this. And it's something that we very much need to open up and look at to determine how to use more appropriate terminology as we talk about these things. NPUE does very much want to separate these elements out, though. We want to see the concept of servants' quarters, guest houses, ADUs separated from the maximum number of unrelated individuals that might be living in a house at any given time. We're also a little bit concerned about the gap that we see. So there's boarding houses are triggered at, 6 individuals. The seventh is a boarding house. Right. So there's the idea that of changing the number out to be able to better sync with the idea of boarding houses and where the gap happens between those two. We're also concerned, though, that in this resolution, guest houses, servants' quarters, and ADUs, the concept of those elements combined is what enables communities to be able to have cottage court developments today. So many of you may have cottage courts that have been developed in your neighborhoods. I think that some of you will probably see them as positive elements. Some of you may see them as negative elements. But cottage courts are an excellent way to very gently densify communities. Typically, the form of cottage courts that you take is that you would have two parcels that are adjacent to each other. And on one parcel, you build a primary structure. The primary structure may have some ground level interior dwelling units or servants' quarters as they're defined in the code. You might then have a guest house that is built in the backyard of the parcel, and then you might have an accessory dwelling unit also. So you then mirror that development on the other side in the other parcel with a shared driveway in the middle. So in form, it presents itself as two single-family homes and some carriage house garages that are in the back. But in reality, these two parcels, instead of being a single family has been able to gently densify those two parcels to be able to accommodate more individuals, and especially people who maybe can't afford a large primary single family home. So there's the idea here that we're not necessarily addressing. We would like to see continued workshopping of this. I know that it has been a long time sitting committee, and you know, unfortunately, the way schedules seem to go is that the moment that it comes up for a vote is kind of the moment that people really dive in and start looking at it and really figuring out what we're talking about here. But I think that we have everyone's attention with it at this point. And I'd like to see these things workshopped into a form that can be broken down. I really appreciate Ms. Stout's comment about this is really complicated. I'll be honest with you, it took me 3 days of research to try to figure all that out. So I think that there's some time here that we could all benefit from.
So with that being said, based upon the conversation, Ms. Stout, I know you said you don't want to see it again, but based upon the context.
In this form.
But I will say that based upon the original context and the request that the committee write a resolution addressing the servants' quarters and the illegal subdivision, I'm going to refer this back to committee to quality of life so that we can get the resolution to the point of addressing what was the initial issue. Because
Should we do that by vote?
because there's consensus that this isn't quite where it was supposed to be. And there's also statements that there was a request for this to be created. So it needs to go back and worked out. Do we need a vote?
Well, we have it on the agenda as a business item, so I mean, it seems like the appropriate course of action would be to make a motion to send it to committee, as opposed to command it to send it to committee.
It's a voting item.
Vote down this.
So you can vote that down or refer to committee.
Madam Chair,
Sorry, Ms. Kinga had her hand up first. So
I make the motion to refer this to the chair's recommended committee. This resolution.
Second. Thank you,
correct, there has been a motion to refer R2307 to committee by Ms. King, seconded by Ms. Hawkins Flynn. Are there questions on the motion? Ms. Stout, you have a question?
oh, I was just gonna say, I was gonna make a motion to vote down this particular resolution and then send the topic of interest to committee. I guess it helps you say.
It's up to you, Chair, Madam Chair.
They can change.
I think the committee can change any and all words,
Yeah,
so I think all you're sending to the committee is concept.
I don't think I want to amend it because I think it all is intertwined. Once he got into it, it seems there needs to be other parts of it about family that maybe all of us weren't sure of. So I don't want to amend it with that. I think the whole resolution needs to go back.
Right,
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
All right,
And not ditch it, the entire resolution.
all right, so there's been a motion that's been properly seconded. We will take a roll call vote. Ms. King,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Glover. Yes. Mr. Penny,
In favor.
Ms. Balil.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Kessler,
Yes.
Ms. Stout,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter.
Favor.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
In favor.
Thank you. Mr. Toomer,
Yes.
Mr. Dodds,
Yes.
Ms. Steins,
Yes.
Ms. Flowers, Mr. Hassan,
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins Lynn was a yes, Ms. Phillips, Ms. Skopchinsky.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Yes.
18, 19, 12. Yep. Okay, so we have 18 in favor, no opposed, and 0 abstentions. So this will go back to the, quality of life committee. All right,
The ethics office is one to ask you if you're going to be afraid so that folks know things.
Can you direct those kinds of things to me, please, so the meeting can continue? The answer is no, but I will talk about it.
Well, yes.
We don't, this meeting doesn't take a break. I
Let's have to call the cop.
Oh, Lord.
Madam President, I wanted to know if we could possibly entertain the idea of, as a best practice, that resolutions or committee work that does not complete within a midterm or administration does not automatically carry over unless we choose to continue moving things over. So I want to know if we can possibly put that forth as a best practice to be explored. Because this is from last year, and we're in March, and we're discussing this. And this,
so then that would be, are you asking for a motion, or are you asking for something to refer to policy?
they're testament to that, to do that as well.
Put it in our SOPs.
Yeah, that could possibly govern this.
Governance committee, I'm sorry. Mr. Toomer?
I think this was a special case.
Does that mean, that we're assuming that the need for such language goes away because the calendar turned?
No.
Yes, but still, the need is still there, so we're going to possibly wipe out.
Point of order.
Is it?
So,
It's like,
thank
we
you.
have
There's a-
steps to
there's a
address
point
this,
of
we
order.
have to go.
There's a point of order, and that actually, we have a governance committee that raised at that time. Mr. Martin?
I think this was an extraordinary case in that it was moved out of the committee in November, so not this year, but last year. We delayed action on it because we were in the process of rewriting bylaws and reformulating committees and doing all this other stuff. So that, and then the committee that brought it to the body was disbanded. So we had to dispose of it in some way. Now, that is not what would normally happen.
So there was a point of order called.
Can we follow the agenda?
No, I'm sorry. My comment was that I don't think what we have here is something that we need a procedure to address because it's something that has never happened before and is never likely to happen again.
And as I mentioned, that could be a discussion as part of the governance committee. We don't have to hash that up here. So appointments, NPUs G through L, we are asking that you all find an appointment for the, or to recommend an appointment for the ACRB. That spot has been empty for a while now, and we are still looking for a best candidate. Mr. Penny?
My question is, NPUJ submitted an applicant last year for a position for the Citizen Review Board, and the applicant has not been notified or no further information has been presented. So my question is, or concern is, what are the steps, process for us to get an appointment on the Citizen Review Board. NPUJ feels that that's a critical board, then would like all applicants to be presented if possible.
And let's talk then after the meeting because we have reached out to that applicant, haven't received a reply.
I just spoke with the applicant just a moment.
Okay, so let's talk offline about how to contact the person.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So with that being said, if we can get in touch with the referral from NPUJ, we will ask that person to come before the board at the April meeting.
The candidate that appeared last month, she's still in the mix for some vote. She was voting on.
So we looked at the bylaws last month, as you know, and technically those are president appointments, and Ms. Phillips did not actually appoint her, and so we're moving on with it for different more purpose.
She was an appointee, not a nominee.
She was nominated, but she was not appointed or confirmed.
There was no.
She was not appointed or confirmed. So I did not appoint her, so there is no confirmation vote needed by the board.
So the board does not need to, the body does not need to ratify those appointments.
There was no appointment, so there was no need for a confirmation. So per the bylaws, it's the duty of the president to appoint the base representation. Our practice is that a nominee comes before the board, and we will continue that practice to come before and have that confirmed, but that particular person was not appointed, so there's no confirmation.
No worries, I just felt the way she was handled was not, just seemed like it was, we could have not brought her forward. We could have had her walk out with her.
She walked out with her head held high, and I will say that I did apologize to her in person here on the record, on video, and then I also apologized to her again off the record because some of the behaviors toward her were absolutely inappropriate, and I addressed that at the time, but that does not actually have anything to do with her being appointed or not. We cannot appoint people without asking them questions, and so it wasn't a waste of time to have her come before the board because the whole point is get to know her point of view and how she will represent this body, and that is standard practice across the city. People want to know who you are, what you stand for, and how you represent the organization, especially because this is coming from, a referral, and we may not actually know the person yet. So I don't think it was a waste of anyone's time. It's the due process.
Yes, ma'am, that was the deliberations that I thought part of her, the.
Point of order.
There's a point of order, and that's something that we can discuss.
Yes, absolutely.
There is someone here from ACRB.
There is.
I'm here. No, I'm not. No, that's not what I thought. Okay. This says board or other business, but we don't have any.
So are we to understand that Terry Ross has terms expired a year and a half ago from this board appointment, the LRB?
Yes, so that can go under this discussion. We do need to fill these other spots as well as confirm whether or not we want these to continue to be our representatives or if we have new people. So right now, Ms. Dent is one of our representatives for Beltline TADAC. Her term expired last month. The way that TADAC operates is basically they just roll over and continue with the same person until we say something differently. So we need to decide if Ms. Dent, who is here, will be our continue to be a representative for us on TADAC. And then Barbara Hubbard for Keep Atlanta Beautiful expired in 2018. People in a Beautiful, I think I don't know if it's actually really active or not.
They don't meet actively, but they still exist and they still want to be on record. I think they're trying to get some things together.
Gotcha.
And they still are providing councilman pickups. I think,
They did.
Kanika Green still is.
I mean, yes, Kanika's still in her role, but she's not the staff sponsor for Cuban Lincoln.
Their board is not.
Right. So it's just a matter of, if they are trying to be active, then we need to find out if Ms. Hubbard wants to continue, if that's what we want, ask her if that's the case, or find a new representative. But I think there's a kind of a question mark 10 in that as to how they're going to move forward and when. And then the license review board, Terry has continued in that role. So we need to determine if Terry will continue in that role or if we want another representative. Ms. Belisle, did you have your hand up?
Oh, no.
Okay, Mr. Hunter and then Mr.
I
Hunter.
just wanted to, by the license review board is actually not a board appointee. It is actually, that seat belongs to them, in their, whatever you want to call it, their bylaws. That seat belongs to the APAC president or the designee. So that one does not have to come before us at all. It's technically your seat or whoever you designate.
Thanks for that reminder. Mr. Martin?
But we probably need to reappoint or something either way.
Mr. Martin?
Do we know if Terry wishes to continue?
I will reach out to him. Any other questions?
That he continues to attend.
Yes. All right, committee reports. This bylaws ad hoc working group. I don't know if technically we have one yet, but
we are,
you are a working group.
we are scheduled to meet on April 4th. It's in either an in-person or teleconference or Zoom meeting, and I'll let y'all know what the link will be. I think it's the same link that we've been using all along. We are in the closing stages of having our current bylaws incorporated into the new template. And we should have that for you next month so that you can see what it looks like.
Same committee makeup.
It's changed a little bit, and I forgot to bring the
I did
list of
too.
people.
I have it in my phone. Mr. Kessler, can you check for me real quick? Do you have the bylaws up? Or can you? Yeah, so the question is, we've had a bylaws committee before. We accepted our new structure. Do we need to actually vote on this ad hoc committee, or is it an executive function to say we have a working group? I don't remember.
I can wait for Mr. Kessler if you want, but the working group is actually a subgroup of the committee. So it wouldn't be this board's business. It would be the committee's business, the governance committee.
Gotcha.
And I have the names of the members if you want.
Yeah, I have, go ahead.
All members from current. Ms. Skopczynski, Mr. Kessler, Mr. Hassan, Mr. Dodds, Ms. Phillips, and Mr. Hunter.
And we'll email you all too. And this is based upon when you all filled out your responses, people that volunteer to sign up to help with the bylaws. And this is, it's kind of like a two-step based process. This is to help get us to the point where the bylaws are in the template and the law department can review. And then there will be a next step where we'll add the other people that were interested so that there can be revision on the actual, some more content and getting that updated because some of the language is out of date. Mr. Kessler, about the bylaws committee. Confirmed.
Yeah, you received an answer from Ms. LaRue that what we discussed was that this would be a subgroup of the governing.
Okay. I just didn't know what the process was for confirming that. I can't remember.
Action committee and not an action of the body, but if it were a general working group, then it would be your appointment and then confirmation by the body.
All right, Mr. Hunter.
I just wanted to remind you that we also voted as a body to establish an ad hoc last month. Yes. ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
So what's the distinction?
All right, so, we have Miss Adrienne Proler here from the Atlanta Citizens Review Board to provide a quarterly, update from ACRB. And Miss Proler, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. All right, I'm just gonna go real quickly over, hi, I'm Adrienne Proler. I'm a member of NPU, and I was appointed less than a year ago to represent NPU's S through Z on APAC. Wanted to tell y'all that y'all did a great job with nominating Kelvin Williams and Dr. Playfaye Floyd. They've been terrific additions. Being on the ACRB is not a light lift. So your friend, I wanted to let you know that it's not. There's a monthly meeting. There are we encourage committee work, so there's additional committee meetings. Everyone's expected to do a minimum of 3 community engagement events. In addition, there's training, orientations, we're having retreats. So, and not to mention that each case has between 200 and 300 pages to read. You have to read all the transcripts. They do a very thorough investigation. So I just wanted to start off with saying that, but it's very rewarding. I don't want to scare anybody off because it's very rewarding work. I serve on the board with Gloria Hawkins-Wynn, and we feel like it's very important work because it helps to establish that trust that's so important with our police officers. For citizens to know that they're held accountable, that police are held accountable for their actions. And so anyway, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the ACRB. The board is 15 residents of the city of Atlanta, including our 4 APAB representatives, or 3, going to be 4. And we also have representatives from the Bar Association, from the Urban League. We have lots of people who are interested. Right now we're trying to fill someone from a Hispanic coalition. I forgot the name, but we're really trying to make sure that our board represents the city of Atlanta well. The agency staff, we have a very good community engagement team. Last year they did 240 community engagement events. So my ask to you is please let us, I forgot to hand these out. So if y'all just want to take some and pass them down. Just keep one. So we do community engagement events. If you have children coming, we have a Justice Crusader who comes in full superhero regalia and gives and has out. We have lots of handouts for the kids where they become Justice Crusaders, where they sign a pledge to promise to tell the truth and be part of the justice team. We also anytime that you have a community event, please let us know, and we're happy to have a table there. We can also develop a presentation. So this is my really quick presentation. But we also have 10-minute and 30-minute presentations that give more information. This card I especially like because it tells you how to stay safe with a police encounter. And I can get those to you for you to pass out to your civic group, your church group. So please keep us in mind because our goal is to get everyone, to make sure that everyone in the city of Atlanta knows what their rights are and how to file a complaint if they have a complaint. With it has to be City of Atlanta police, APD, or a City of Atlanta corrections officer. We don't have jurisdiction over Fulton County, over DeKalb, and any other employee. Hey, you can switch to the next one. The most filed complaints are abuse of authority, appropriate action. You feel like they didn't take you seriously when you called and they didn't do anything. Conduct, false arrest, false imprisonment, and use of excessive force. Next. I'm closing on only 3 minutes. So these are the services that we do, and we really could use your assistance with the community engagement part. And then the last is just contact, how to, there it is, how to file. So if you have any questions about ACRB, there's a pretty robust website. We're getting ready to release our 2023 report that tells you how many, about all the complaints that were filed, the resolution. And so when that happens, we will all be sending them out to our representatives. Are there any questions?
Ms. Stearns, Mr. Toomer, Mr. Hunter, Ms. Dow.
Actually, Mr. Hunter was first. It's okay. Quick question. It says if asked to search your car, you do not have to consent. I did not know that.
You should. Yeah.
And then it says if they do search, then you file a complaint.
Well, that's not quite accurate, that you do not, if there's probable cause for the officer to believe that, for example, if they smell marijuana, you cannot not consent. The marijuana itself gives rise to probable cause for a search. So as a general rule, with that, if you ask them, can you search, and they can't articulate why they need to search, then you're probably within your rights. But if they say, I smell marijuana, or I see an open container, that gives rise to what is legally called probable cause or articulation.
And that's why it's great.
I'm not a lawyer, I know you are, but that's not what
You
she's
don't
saying.
mind
If you get pulled over, let's say they say you were speeding, and they say, do you mind if we search your car?
Yeah.
If it's a legit question, you have the right to say no.
No.
I do mind.
That's what she's saying.
Yeah.
If there is no problem.
And if they do it anyway, you file a
That's
complaint.
right.
Yes.
That's what
Yes.
she's saying.
Yes.
Mr. Toomer?
At one point, we were told that, different actions would go into the dead zone with, police. You would have a finding, request something, and then would go in the dead zone. Is that still prevalent?
So when you say, so there have been, so I've been there less than a year. There was early in my tenure, there was one about that had to do with them being very behind on their cases. I believe that they had.
There's a statute of limitation that was expanded. Your claim, whatever your cause of action, had to be filed within 180 days of that cause of action. Now it is 365 days. Is that what you're saying?
No, it seemed like you had I think it was actually you, you had reported that there was a finding and a action sent to the, police commissioner, and it was never responded
Oh,
to.
he's talking about response time. You can find, if you go acrbgov.org, you'll find where we have submitted actions. The chief gets 30 days to respond to those actions. Yes, that is one of our issues, that there seems to be, there's more no response within that 30-day period. So,
Right, and a lot of that, though, I think was due to staffing issues, and I think that they've graduated quite a few people from the police academy.
Caveat is this, I don't think it's really that proper to assume that there were staffing issues. Can we assume that they did not respond because they didn't feel they had to?
If you know, I can't speak in general terms. If you want to give a specific,
I digress.
Please, I encourage anyone to call in if you have any question or concern.
Mr. Hunter?
Hi, Adrian, nice to see you. Miss you like that. I have two questions. One is, there was at one point in time, I think, 2 positions for youth, about 30 and below. Have they been filled? Are they still open, and have they been filled?
So we have someone go, you know, to get on, you have to go through background checks. And I believe that we have one of the youth representatives Lori, correct me if
That's
I'm wrong.
right. In 2020, the ordinance was expanded to add 2 new categories. Remember she said earlier, there's 15 appointments from all sorts of different entities. I'm appointed by city council, she's Great Pat, but the thrust of it is,
Yeah.
we've got 2 new groups that were added. It's the 18 to 30-year-old groups that were added in
And
20.
the
We've
Hispanic.
been able to seat one from the AU Center, and we've been trying to seat a second one for.
So the answer is there's one opening for 18 to 30-year-old.
That's right, but it's,
Okay.
but it's pursuant to.
That was all, that's my only
No,
question.
no, not really. There isn't, because we've identified an agency.
That was my question. Is there still a slot open for an 18 to 30-year-old? The
Yes.
answer is yes.
The answer is no.
The answer is no.
The answer is no, because we haven't had the
Point of
approved
order.
entity to, we've only got one group, the Hispanic group that was approved, and they've yet to seat anybody. So it is,
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll-
so please call to
And
get.
my other question was, earlier, last year, there was some issues with, I know the ACDC, Atlanta Correctional Detention Center,
Uh-huh,
which is Atlanta Property Corrections in there, but we're leasing out space, beds, whatever, to
Right.
Fulton County Sheriff's Office.
right.
And there were some issues with inmates within there. Has that been resolved?
Okay, so we have jurisdiction over the Atlanta corrections, the Atlanta employees, which there are, the corrections officers, or many of the corrections officers at that ACDC, it was the ACDC, are employees of the city. So we do have jurisdiction over there. Last year, there was a little bit of a struggle with Fulton County Sheriff's Department not wanting to let the investigators in to interview complainants about, because if you're being held in the jail and you file a complaint, we need to go into the jail to talk to you about the investigators. And that was finally resolved. And now there's no barrier to the investigators going in and talking to the inmates when they have complaints.
We're at 12:15, so we'll take one more question and then we'll move on to the step.
Yeah, so my question is, I see there's nothing on here as to filming. And my follow-up to his, I think he was saying that the ACRB makes a recommendation and the APT just say, yeah, no. We're not gonna do it.
They do have, so Chief Shearbaum does have final authority on whether our recommendation, because we take each complaint and they are given a degree of severity, and also whether that officer has had the same complaint in the past year. Because if he has, then it goes to a higher degree. And then we have our choice, we recommend oral admonishment, written admonishment, remedial training, or we can, depending on the severity of the complaint, we can give them 3 to 7 recommended days off. And we can even say, we really would like to look at whether this person might want to continue being a police officer.
Or you can only recommend.
We can only recommend, and we are looking at trying to look at the things that are rejected, because some of them are rejected by Chief Shearbaum. And we're looking at.
but Amy, if I can answer, yes, we did all.
I want to answer my other question. Can you recommend about filming? You don't recommend filming? It's not covered here.
So that's not, I'm not a citizen, that question has not come up before.
How many you consider? And, because it's like take a mental note or whatever.
Yeah.
Documentation counts.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Pro.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
I can go ahead. Okay, wonderful. So, good afternoon. I am Corinne Dent, the appointee to the TADAC, the Tax Allocation District Advisory Committee. I wrote it down, so I want to stay within my 3-minute time limit. So I'm going to read what I wrote, and then if you all have questions, I will jot them down if I can't answer. So this is my first quarterly report. And as of the TADAC's annual business meeting on February 3rd, I am the parliamentarian for 2024. That may be affected because my appointment technically ended on the 6th of February. So we'll see how that goes today. For the most part, the TADAC's primary function is to ensure ongoing and meaningful citizen input into the planning, design, and implementation of Beltline. To achieve our mission each year, the TADAC sets goals. In the interest of time, first, I will give you a brief overview of this year's proposed goals, and please keep in mind that these goals are proposed, and the vote to adopt them will come at our first official meeting later this month, provided we have quorum. Last, I will take questions, and like I said, anything I can't answer, I will jot down and do my best to get you a response. Finance Committee goals, a short version. First, to review the draft of ABI Atlanta Beltline Inc.'s budget for the fiscal year 2025 to make recommendations on the equitable use of funds. Second, work with ABI to refine and revise the presentation of their financial data so that it's more understandable and presentable to members of the community. And a side note there, it took me a very long time once I was appointed to this board to really understand what was going on and the information that I was receiving. It took a long time. Now I understand, so I'm happy, but because of that, I understand how important it is to make sure information that Beltline puts out is understandable to the people that it affects. Okay. Third goal for Finance Committee, verify which TADAC recommendations from the previous fiscal year have been implemented. So we can't do that until we actually meet with ABI. That meeting is going to be scheduled, but it has not taken place. The Development Committee goals by the end of this calendar year to review the strategic implementation plan's performance against the Beltline project goals. TADAC will request information to better understand how the CIP and CDP interact. Third, engage with ABI, ATO, DOT, TADAC appointing bodies, and all other relevant organizations on the Beltline Transit Study in order to educate and provide accurate information to the public. And fourth, work with ABI to implement neighborhood-specific signage along the Beltline. These are the proposed goals in short, and that ends my report.
Mr. Martin and Mr. Barnett.
When did your term on TADAC begin?
It began, it would end in February 6th of this year, so it began February of 2022.
So you are eligible to serve for another 4 years because there's still a 6-year limit, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then, Madam President, is this something that we can take a motion on and vote on at this meeting? Okay.
Yeah, I was just asking her about that.
All right.
It says that. So.
When the time is appropriate, I would like to make it.
Barnett.
Ted, thank you for your service to TEDx. We really appreciate that. TEDx was in some ways created as a citizen input to Beltline, which otherwise has really very little oversight from the citizens of the city. In your yeah, thank you. In your candid opinion, do you feel like the TEDx is meeting those ideas, those concepts of providing that citizen level input to how the Beltline is progressing? Do you feel like TEDx has become an organization that rubber stamps the information that is provided to it by the Beltline?
So, you asked a few questions within that question. So I'll start with the end. No, I don't feel like TEDx has become a rubber stamp to what ABI is putting out. Just sitting in on those meetings and really trying to understand for myself, no, definitely not. I think that there's a constant struggle between TEDx and ABI to make sure the information is understandable for everyone. And then do I feel like they are basically serving their mission, I think is what you're asking, getting that information out to the public? Yes and no. I think that they are, because they do, TEDx does make efforts to get the information they have out and to include the public in on that information. But I think those efforts could be increased. And I think that the goals that we've set this year are goals that will help increase those efforts. That was a heavy conversation at the annual meeting in February.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Dent? Ms. Hutchinson?
Yes, Ms. Dent, thank you for serving on Beltline TADAC. Are you willing to extend your term of office?
Yes, because it would cause TADAC an issue with me being the parliamentarian.
Oh, yeah.
But also because when I started out, I didn't know much. I didn't know much about how all of this worked, including APAP. And so it has, as a regular citizen, it has been a true learning experience for me. It's something that I've been able to encourage other members of my community to take advantage of whenever these opportunities come up. So for me, the learning, yes, and to make sure everyone has a voice when it comes to the Beltline. You may not live in a Beltline community or within the TAD, but it does affect you in every way.
Thank you.
Yes.
So,
To that, which view are you?
I'm in Z.
So, I don't have a question.
Okay.
I just want to say that Mrs. Dent is in NPUC. And, you know, all chairs know that you have a right hand, you have a left hand, and then you got these hands right here in the middle that you're always pulling on. Mrs. Dent decided one day that she was going to step up and become the president of her community association, and she started working, and before we knew it, she had mastered into a beautiful community association, right down to the fact that she got, what was it, $95,000 a couple of months ago for her park to put in a skate park. She's very one of those hard work. Okay.
So I am going to make that motion, but a quick question before I do. How is TADAC doing with regard to mini quorum requirements these days? Good.
Not too good. And I'm happy you asked that question because now TEDx at the annual meeting is really looking at holding people accountable for attending those meetings because they're supposed to be there, you know, appointees from their various organizations to attend those meetings. So that's something that they're going through, actually looking at the books, who's attending and what needs to be done about the attendance.
Okay.
For that reason, I take my attendance very seriously.
Very good, very good. No, I didn't know if how well our other APAP appointees were doing. But in any event, I would like to make a motion that we renew Ms. Dent's term, or that we appoint Ms. Dent to a second 2-year term on TADAC.
We just talked about that, you have to make a nomination first.
Well, so you take the appointment and then confirm the appointment.
right. So, Ms. Dent, you are willing to serve again. Will you accept an appointment to the Beltline Tax Advisory District Advisory Committee?
Yeah, I will accept an appointment to the Beltline TAD.
Thank you. So we now need the board to confirm or reject the appointment. So we will do a roll call. Ms. King has left. Mr. Martin,
Yes, confirm.
Mr. Barnett,
Yes.
Ms. Lee.
Oh, no, I was gonna ask a question before the motion. He made the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, you know what, you're right, I'm sorry, before we do a roll call, is there a discussion on the motion? I'm sorry.
Right, so it's not about the motion. So.
Okay. Okay, well, is there a discussion on the motion then? I'm sorry, I forgot, I skipped this, I'm sorry.
You have a second on the motion?
Yes, I'll second it.
No, we already did. We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I think we have 2 or 3 ideas.
All right, so let me confirm, who seconded? I didn't actually write that down.
Second.
Yes, okay. All right, so we have a motion on the floor that has been moved by Jim Martin and seconded by Sky Hassan to confirm Ms. Dent as, to reappoint her to the Beltline TADAC. Any discussion on the motion? All right, so roll call, we have Martin as a yes, Burnett as a yes, Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Glover,
Yes.
Mr. Petty,
In favor.
Mr. Khalil,
Yes.
Mr. Kessler,
Yes.
Ms. Stout, Mr. Hunter,
In favor.
Mr. Schumer,
Yes.
Mr. Dodge,
Yes.
Ms. Sines,
Yes.
Ms. Flowers, Mr. Hassan,
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins Wynn,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Bob Chinsky,
Yes.
thank you. So we have 17 in favor, 0 against, and 0 abstentions. Thank you, Ms. Dent. You have been reappointed to the Beltline TADAC.
My question,
Thank you so much for your service.
I don't live on the Beltline, and I was intrigued by your statement that you need to include people who are not. How are you doing that?
I don't live on Beltline.
Oh, you don't?
That's very important.
Oh, okay,
And I stated that before I became an appointee.
right,
And for that reason, I thought that it didn't matter to me.
right.
But so much is happening in the city. And so how are we included? First of all, you have me to include people like you. My personal goal is to make sure people like you are represented. Because people who may not be able to afford to live on the Beltline are gonna push prices for other people who have to live off the Beltline as well. So I wanna make sure we're all at the table and that you get the information and that it's understandable for you and members of your community.
We got the information page, because none of those.
Well, I'll get you some information.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're at 12:30. Can I entertain a motion to extend the meeting? I'm sorry, you guys, to
So moved.
12:35. Are there any, is there any opposition? All right, unanimous consent. We have 12:45. Thank you, Ms. Dent. Leah, you have updates from the Department of City Planning?
I do, but I gotta record that motion first. 1 second. Okay, perfect. So I have a few things, but as usual, I'll try to go as quickly as I can to get you all out of here. Next week begins Legacy Week. This is, of course, part of our NPU 50-year-long celebration. We're starting on Monday with Public Engagement Day from 10 to 2. Every single city department and most of our partner agencies, all of our partner agencies, Invest Atlanta, the Beltline, Atlanta Housing, MARTA, and anybody else I'm missing, they will all be there as well. Everyone's setting up a table there and ready to engage the public, answering questions, talking about upcoming initiatives, taking your feedback, etc. Then on Thursday, we're hosting, I'm super excited about this Thursday event. We're hosting a panel discussion called The Inheritance and Legacy of Civic Power. And 3 of the panelists are confirmed. 1 just unconfirmed yesterday, so I'm disappointed that Charlotta Wilson-Jacks won't be able to join the panel. But Skip Mason will be on the panel, for those that know Reverend Skip Mason. Former council member Joyce Shepard, who was an NPU chairperson for a long time and a neighborhood president before becoming a council member. And somebody else that I can't remember right now, and nobody back there seems to know either. It'll come to me in a second. But we're really excited about the panelists. God, I'm so mad I can't include this. Then on Friday, we're having Maynard Jackson Day at Maynard Jackson High School. Super excited about that. We'll be having a mock council session with some of the students at Maynard Jackson. They will be debating legislation, voting on that legislation, and having a good time learning about how civic processes work, and hopefully stoking in them, will be hopefully stoking in them an excitement for participating in civic processes. And then on Sunday, we're collaborating with the mayor's office, and the mayor himself and the mayor's office of film and entertainment to produce a screening of Maynard. That is, I will send out invitations after this meeting. But that's going to be on Sunday, the 24th at the Terra Theater. There are only 334 seats. Maynard Jackson's son and other family members will be present for a discussion after the screening, or before or after the screening. I don't remember the show. But there's 334 tickets. I think that most of them are taken. I did set aside tickets for NPU leaders, APAB members, and another group that I can't think of right now. So you'll get the invitation. If you're interested, please make sure that you RSVP because the demand is huge. Did I mention it's at the Terra Theater already? Yes, great. Okay, moving on. You may have received an email from me late last night on a training for NPU chairs, neighborhood presidents, and zoning committee contacts. There is a training on March 25th. That is next Monday, a week from this Monday. And it is specifically for those groups that I named to learn more about the mapping tools, the online survey that we hope will be ambassadors for in your community. I'm going to pause for a quick second because this is more important than anything else that I have to add. Those of you that live in vulnerable, underserved, or previously excluded communities, I implore you to take ownership of Plan A for your community. I beseech you, I beg you, I am asking with everything in me that you take ownership of Plan A in your community. Even if you don't know what it is, don't be ashamed, don't be embarrassed, because believe it or not, there are so many people who have no clue what the CDP is, and I don't want those neighborhoods to be excluded. We, the Department of City Planning, does not want those neighborhoods to be excluded. So please, 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 if you're unsure of how to proceed, if you don't know what any of this stuff means, or maybe not you, but if you know that your neighbors have no clue what this is, please don't hesitate to call me, talk to me. You can also call Nate, who's the project manager and really, really, really good and passionate about this. We're committed, but y'all, I'm telling you, you gotta own it. I promise you, you gotta own it. Speaking of, we have a community open houses coming up this week. One on Tuesday in NPU at Dunbar. There are about, as of yesterday, there were about 43 people signed up for that meeting, about 35 of which were not from NPU.
So let me tell you the competing interests. We have another infrastructure meeting.
Let's talk about that. I want to talk about that, please. I'm not aware of it. The following day on Wednesday, there's one in NPUR. I don't know how many people are registered for that, but I'll find out. And then the day after that, and Thursday, is NPUO. These meetings are open to the public, and that's wonderful. But my interest is in making sure that in NPUs like L and J and G and B, the people that are dominating the conversation are the people that live there. It's great for folks to come from the east side and from the north side and all that. That's wonderful. I want to see that kind of interest too. But I want to make sure that these previously excluded voices are heard in their own communities at their open houses. That said, pardon me? Ain't nobody going to why. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. That was a joke. I can't name all of the NPUs. You know your community and you know whether, you know what you need. If you don't know, come talk to me. Financial disclosures are due on April 1st. If you didn't do it today, I think they're still in there. So please make sure you file your financial disclosure no later than April 1st. And the mayor's, some of y'all remember last year, the mayor did a summit on neighborhoods on January 21st. And the mayor is reconvening his summit on neighborhoods on April 20th. That's next month, third Saturday, April 20th.
That's our meeting day.
That's how.
Yeah.
I didn't get invited.
You did it again.
Yeah.
So you get lunch here. We'll go find you there.
No, we didn't get
I
invited.
didn't get invited.
I am literally just announcing it right now. The invitations have not gone out yet. They'll be coming from me. But,
Hold on.
and there will be celebrations.
Go on.
Keep going. But let me actually piggyback, because I heard the chatter, I heard your voices. Let me just say this, I am looking forward, and this is in my notes, because I anticipated that reaction. I'm really looking forward to this board's voice being amplified. And that means reporting back to your NPU meetings, preparing position statements and recommendations for public comment, excuse me, for public comment at city council meetings and council committee meetings, and formally requesting participation in key city planning initiatives. When departments are working on citywide initiatives, or when there's anything big happening in any department, the first stop should be APAB. This is what came out of your strategic planning last year. This is the direction that you all said you wanted to go in, particularly as it relates to establishing and amplifying a unified voice. So I just encourage y'all to move in that direction and keep that front of mind, that you need to be preparing these position statements and these recommendations to be read aloud at council meetings, at council committee meetings, etc., so that you're amplifying your unified voice. The last announcement that I have is, well, an announcement from Mr. Ross, which I believe you all got. Please make sure if your NPU voted no on an LRB application, that someone is there to represent that application at the LRB hearing. The no is not the end of the road for LRB. For LRB, if you vote no, you need to be at the LRB meeting to speak to the application. And last but not least, we talked in previous months about strategic planning part 2, or 2024, which is a continuation of the planning you did last year. We have procured a consultant to do that. Very excited. Some of you have worked with Sizemore Group before, but we received 2 proposals. We sent out an RFQ last month, I believe. We received 2 proposals. If any of you sent us names to pursue, we did send them the RFQ as well. We got back 2 proposals. We reviewed those with the president, and we settled on the Sizemore Group. I heard you all. I know you wanted to go in a different direction from last year, so we're doing that. We are hoping that you will consider having your strategic planning session on the Saturday of your May meeting, so that you don't have to have an extra Saturday during the month, whether it's April or May, but that's definitely y'all's call to make. There's a hope that you will agree to do it at that meeting. The consultant may reach out to some of you in advance, because they will be conducting some pre-planning interviews. That's it. I appreciate your time and attention and your patience. Plan A is top and bottom. That's my starting point, and that's my ending point.
So, Leah, is that date for the mayor summit definitely confirmed? Or is there still room to say, APAB meets on the Thursday, and we represent various constituents that you'd like to have at that summit?
Third Saturday.
Third Saturday.
I know you think it is for you.
Okay.
I fought the fight. I fought the good fight.
Okay.
That's all I can say. I fought the good fight.
Ms. Steins, Mr. Hunter, Ms. Stout, Mr. Martin, Ms. Phillips.
Last month you mentioned about block parties, and I've got a few neighborhoods. Do I give that information to you?
Okay, yes.
And then the schedule for Legacy Week, is that somewhere available that we can reach out?
It's on our social. We can email it to you all as well after this meeting. It's starting on Monday, Thursday, and Friday.
Are you on their listserv? Because they sent it out.
Okay, I'll check. Thank you.
We talked for the same.
Mr. Hunter?
I was going to ask if we wanted to maybe explore either canceling and then to just the final bid for our meeting next month. Do we think that we need to be present at that meeting? Or have our, continue our meeting? Just want to know what your thoughts are.
My last resort was if an administration would consider having APAB there and potentially having a panel with APAB, in lieu of our meeting.
Yes. I didn't know, I'm sorry, I'm not that idea.
So Rashi's question was, should we attend the summit instead of having our April meeting on April 20th? Because at the same time, I forwarded a request to the NPU department that they actually reconsider a different date, since it conflicts with ours, but last resort, that if it is at the same time, that they consider having us there, because last time they had different breakout sessions and panels, that they actually have a panel with APAB or a breakout session with APAB at that session.
Here and convene there.
Yeah, okay. So to your question, that is something for the board to me to decide. So if you want to make a motion to make vote up or down, that's on you all. I'm agnostic. Ms. Stout?
My question was on the structure of these open houses, Leah. Do we know, is it drop in when you can? There's no compelling reason to be the first one there, is there, or?
It is drop in when you can, as you can. There is no, as I understand. So the first one is Tuesday, but as I know it, there is no run of show presentation where you need to be there on time or anything like that. It's starting at 4:30, it's running until 7, and people can drop in and rotate as they. Ma'am?
You said it's 4.
Oh, maybe 4. My apologies. I thought it was 4:30 to 7. It could be 4 to 7.
But I think the times vary. Nate held one last.
No, they're all the same time.
No, I think I see.
They're all the same time.
Nate was at our location from 10 to 3.
That was not an open house. Y'all have not had one yet. The first one is Tuesday and
Mr. Martin?
Referring back to, when you mentioned Terry's comment about the LRB, I've mentioned this before, but I still remember fondly that brief shining period when I used to get LRB agendas emailed to me. And I wonder if that day might ever come again.
It is 4 o'clock. I just confirmed on our Instagram. So my apologies. It's 4 to 7. And I will personally commit to making sure that happens. Bottom line, I'm gonna ask Morgan to help me with that, but I'll commit to making sure that happens again. There was a time when I just randomly happened to see, I'm on their list, and I happened to see the email. I just, for whatever reason, scrolled through the email addresses in the 2 fields and noticed that it was very much out of date. Many of the chairs had long gone, and meaning had moved on, were no longer chairs. I emailed them back and said, hey, your list is outdated, can you send it to these emails instead? There was some back and forth. I then started sending them out to y'all, but that was not sustainable. I can't commit to that, but I'm gonna ask someone on my team to make sure that if APD will not send it to the chairs directly, that we will make sure y'all get it.
Ms. Phillips?
Just a quick question about the online mapping for the 25th. Of course, everybody that you name will be in my NPU meeting. So I need to send you something in writing as to who and send it to replace us.
Wait, what do you mean?
You know, my NPU meeting
Right.
on the 25th,
Mhm.
and you named the chair, the vice chair, and
the zoning.
And the zoning chairperson. Of course, all of us will be in the NPU meeting. So do I need to send you a list of names of somebody else that would be replacing us?
No, so you're sending people from your NPU to the training?
Yeah, because
you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. I wouldn't want your members or those from M, because we have the same situation in M. I wouldn't want your members to miss your NPU meeting to attend the training. The training will be recorded and posted on our website and on YouTube. And we also have the conversations with planners. They have like 12 dates for those conversations with planners. We have a number of other opportunities and touch points. So I wouldn't, if I were you, I wouldn't send your members to the training instead of the NPU meeting.
And so it's 12:47, 12:47. Can we extend the meeting by 2 more minutes? I'd like to entertain a motion to have our strategic planning session on May 18th in lieu of a regular board. Or actually, do we need to do that? Can we just set the agenda as the strategic planning? Go ahead, Kyle.
So, like to remind everyone, per our revised bylaws, we don't have a standing meeting on the third Saturday of each month. So we need to declare when we're gonna have a meeting, otherwise we don't have a meeting.
It's not the agenda, we adopt the meeting's agenda.
Oh,
But
it says
we don't
next
know when the
meeting.
April
It
one
says next
is.
meeting on
It's on the agenda.
They didn't pick a date.
It's on the agenda.
For April Day.
Next meeting, April 20th, 2024, we adopted this agenda.
But we didn't set a set Saturday, that's what it
Oh, no, we don't have to do that, but we said,
It says announced and approved.
Yeah.
Hold
Point of order. So the agenda was adopted. It says the next meeting is Saturday, April 20th. I'm asking about the May meeting. So, because I'd like to get that on the schedule so that we can move forward. So, 2 steps so we're in compliance. Can we extend this meeting by 2 minutes to entertain a motion? And then, the governance committee, to your point, Kyle, will discuss the schedule for the remainder of the year. Go ahead.
The retreat will be more time.
We'll talk to the consultant about that, set an agenda and.
Did you hear it? Yes, for motion to extend the meeting.
Yes, motion to extend.
I made a motion to extend the meeting for 2 minutes. 5 minutes.
Second.
Any objections? All right, so moved by unanimous consent. So is your question about May 18th, the amount of time that would be required versus the 2 hours? Gotcha. You know when the consultant will have.
It's a full day schedule, similar to the last one. I think it's intended to be 9 to 4, or something like that from the scope of work. Of course, we'll provide breakfast and lunch and snacks and whatnot. I heard Ms. Stout ask if it was gonna be here. We will, just as we did last time, although last time we didn't have enough time to pull it off, we will try to find a venue outside of City Hall, just to give you a break from being at City Hall. But we'll see. If anybody has ideas or recommendations for a location, I definitely welcome them, especially if it's free. Okay, wonderful. Free is great, because budget.
Madam President, I make a motion to approve of our regular meeting in May, that we schedule a retreat from 9 a.m. to 4:30.
A second.
I can't do this, but I would recommend you say in lieu of, since we technically don't have a schedule yet, to say that we post our session on this.
Madam President, I make a motion that we have a retreat scheduled from 9 to 4:30.
Okay.
In lieu of our regular scheduled meeting on May 18th, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion on the motion?
Oh, Lord. That's your only caveat is nothing to take evaluations. Yes, Lord. Mm-hmm.
I am.
Yeah, I'm looking at over here.
But that is the week before the graduation starts that. Yeah, so.
I was 22nd.
Yeah. So very, very aware.
Yeah, I bet you are.
So there's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? So the motion is to host our strategic planning session on Saturday, May 18th from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the motion is approved by unanimous consent. Any announcements or upcoming meetings?
Plan A.
Okay. I have an announcement. So, back in January, I took a letterpress class, at the Printmaker Studio. We had to do an independent project to make a bunch of stuff. What better to do in a letterpress class than something related to letters? We have NPUs are represented by letters. So I have a gift for each of you, which is in compliance with the ethics code because it's for your service. It is a novelty of nominal value. Please come by and I will give you a print.
Mr. Hunter,
Are we not gonna deal with next month's meeting?
what do you mean?
Are we going to cancel our meeting?
Oh. What is the consensus here? Point of order.
Point of order, we're still in the meeting.
We're still in the meeting.
We're gonna run out of 5 minutes.
We have 1 minute. Order. Point of order. What are we doing for next month's meeting? I told you, listen, you all to decide. I'm agnostic. Will we meet or would you prefer to cancel next month's meeting so you can attend the mayor's neighborhood summit?
I wasn't invited to the mayor's.
Madam Chair, I motion that we, cancel next month's meeting and we attend, the mayor's summit.
There's been a motion to cancel next month's meeting in order to attend the mayoral neighborhood summit. Is there a second?
Well, can I have something I want to add to that motion. Excuse me. If, who made the motion?
I did.
If you're willing to amend, just to add, that we also send a correspondence to the mayor's office, that, you know, this is during our meeting time, and we're going to acquiesce. This is the second time this is happening. I think we need to share that gently, or however the tone needs to be set by the president, that we would appreciate if, you know, consideration is given that we traditionally meet the third Saturday of every month.
It's the motion that we.
The action is the same, but I want to add that we allow the president to correspond on our behalf to the mayor's office, sharing that this is during our meeting time.
So I guess it's saying the motion to.
I got it. I got it.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, and then the second. All right, so point of order. Thank you. I know this went extra long. We started 15 minutes late. I appreciate you all so much. We can knock this out. Let's do a roll call real quick. Mr. There was a motion by Ms. Hawkins Nguyen to cancel our April 20th, 2024 meeting. And you're right, in lieu, so that we could attend the mayor's neighborhood summit. And there was a friendly amendment by Mr. Hunter to also include correspondence to the administration, letting them know that we're acquiescing to this, but that we would like more consideration when planning these types of citywide events, to be considerate of our APAP scheduling, and that has been seconded by Ms. Phillips. Is there a discussion on the motion?
Yeah, right quick. If we vote this up, will we take a roll call of NPU presence? Because that counts in terms of applying for grants and et cetera.
That's a while, Mr. Tillman.
I'm sorry?
No.
That hasn't been a requirement in a while.
Okay.
Now he gonna stop coming.
After 10 years.
Is there any objection to canceling the meeting next month?
I think we should boycott the mayor's.
Are you objecting?
I am okay.
Okay, all right, so, roll call. Martin? Barnett?
Oh, wait, what's so, sorry.
I'll let you know. Barnett?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Glover? Yes. I'm sorry, Penny was a yes. Balil?
Yes.
Kessler?
Yes.
Stout?
Yes.
Hunter?
In favor?
Yes.
Dodds,
Yes.
Steins,
Yes.
Flowers is a yes.
I'm a yes.
Hassan,
Yes.
Hawkins Wynn,
Yes. Sir.
Phillips,
Yes.
Scott Tinsky.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for getting that.
Madam
done.
President, real quickly, I make a motion that in part of your correspondence that you include the request for a breakout session with the mayor at that event.
Gotcha. Well,
That'll be
That's
part
a
of
good
it.
idea.
that's a good one.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Okay, got it.
What was the final? Did you get the final?
Yeah, hold on.
And also, who?
Thank you.
Oh, I'm missing.
Who seconded the motion? I did.
Seconded that motion.
Which one?
To cancel the 420 meeting.
I thought it was Mr. Osaka, it was Phillips.